And good afternoon. Welcome to Community Comment. On Community Comment today, we begin the first of 3 episodes looking at the race for Beaver Dam Mayor in the February 18th primary. There are 3 candidates that are vying for 2 spots in the April ballot. The other 2 candidates, the incumbent, Becky Gluen, will be joining us on Wednesday. Another challenger, Alan Winter, will be our guest on Tuesday's program. On today's program, we have an opportunity to sit down with Jeff Kohman. Thank you very much for joining us today, sir.
Thank you for having me.
If you could tell our listeners a little bit about yourself, who you are, your background, that type of thing.
Well, again, I'm Jeff Kohman, and I am a candidate for mayor in the city of Beaver Dam. Out of the 3 candidates, I have the most experience. I spent 12 years on the city council from 1993 to 2005. 10 of those years, I chaired the Board of Public Works. 3 years, I chaired Finance Committee, and 2 years, I chaired Parks and Recreation Committee at that point, and a Personnel Committee. I don't remember how many I did on the Personnel Committee, but that was from 1993 to 2005. I left the council in 2005, and I got involved 4 years ago when I was appointed by Mayor Kennedy to the Police and Fire Commission. And since that time, I spent the past 4 years as president of the Police and Fire Commission. So again, I have more experience than the other 2.
Would you say the council's changed a lot in the time since you've been on it, or not much at all?
Well, the more things change, the more they stay the same. And that's pretty much what it is. We still have the 14 alderpersons. Resolutions, ordinances, everything's still about the same way. Protocol is still about the same way. It's just different faces, different people.
Yeah, you were on during before the 2 standing committees were established under Jack Hankes, operations and admin. So you probably found yourself going to a lot more committee meetings, maybe.
Well, I
than some
haven't
do.
gone to a lot, but I've gone to some, depending upon what was on the agenda. And I think the 2-committee system now is a lot less wieldy than we used to be when we had 5 committees. So I think that's going to be a little easier to work with overall.
Yeah, the size of the council was the same now as it was then, as it was decades ago at 14. There has been some talk by some people of reducing that number. Curious your thoughts about the size of it.
I would be 100% for reducing it. I would take the 14 wards, divide them in half, and I'd have 7. And 7 alderpersons for each, or 1 for each ward, and then I'd have 1 alderman at large. And that would give us a total of 8. So I think that would be a little less wieldy than the 14 is. We probably couldn't get 14 people to agree on what kind of coffee we want to drink tomorrow, and it's about the same way with the council too. So reducing the size of the council would be very, very big on my list of things to do.
What is it about that at-large position that you would like to see in Beaver Dam city government?
Well, that person can go anywhere in the city. They're not restricted by a ward, that type of thing. So they're free to roam the whole city, talking to people, getting ideas from people, that sort of thing. And again, it makes it an even number. So that's what we want to always keep.
Yeah. Since we're on the subject of talking about the city council, now might be a good time to get into this idea of city administrator form of government, which has been floated by your opponent. The idea of moving away from a full-time mayor and going toward a part-time mayor form of government, while at the same time bringing in this full-time city administrator. What are your thoughts about that?
I think a city administrator is a terrific thing. I don't know if I'd want to be around if they had one, but the municipalities that I know of that have it, everything runs very well. Those communities, they have one person who's handling the major things in the way of administrator. He or she would have experience in all of that. Then you've also got a smaller council, so you could even do away with the 2 committees and bring it in as a council of the whole whenever you had to have a meeting and that type of thing. And the mayor's functions really are not that grandiose. The current mayor has taken on a lot of responsibilities that she maybe didn't have to, and has added to her work hours, that type of thing. And with an administrator there, the mayor just pretty much there for shaking hands and ceremonies. It's about the extent of it.
So let me ask you, why did you decide to run for mayor in the city of Beaver Dam?
Well, when I got off the city council in 2005, got my work issues all straightened away and that type of thing after that, I had people approach me every election year. Are you going to run? You did a great job as council president. Are you going to run? And my answer was always no. Got good people running, that type of thing. And that went on for a number of years. And just recently, for this election, Mayor Gluen had made it known that she probably wasn't going to run for re-election. And everybody was under that assumption. So I thought, okay, Jeff, you're getting old. You better take a shot at this while you can. And that's when I filed my papers. And afterwards, when I found that Becky Gluen was running again, it was already too late. The steamroller of support in the community was just rolling with me, just sitting on top and taking a ride. So I at no point wanted to withdraw from that point. I want to see good things happen at Beaver Dam, and I think I'm the person to do them.
Well, what do you think some of the big issues are that that have come up in this election cycle?
Well, there's a lot of them. The biggest issue that I've run into is how far the city government is separated from the people that live in the city. I had stories of people who don't know who their alderman is. They don't know what ward they're in. They've called their alderman, and their alderman hasn't replied, things of this nature. So I think we need to get that back together to where it should be. The city council is the first stop of city government for the people, and they should be the ones that are out doing the majority of the work. So I think that needs to be done.
Now, and this is something I saw in your campaign literature and whatnot. This isn't the first time that you've you brought that up. How would you change that? How would that be different under your leadership?
Well, I think the elder persons have to be held to task to begin with. I had one situation where the people that 2 doors away from their alderman didn't even know he was their alderman. And I think the aldermen have to be out in amongst their constituents, talking about different issues and trying to find out what the general read is out there on people. And I urge the people, too, to call your older person, talk to your older person. I heard a couple of what I would call horror stories where people had called their alderman, and their alderman never called them back. Things of that nature. So the first thing we'd have to do is have to sit down and figure out what direction we're going. And I think it's got to be with getting the people more involved.
Yeah, in this idea of being able to have people's alder persons be more closely in touch with them, as far as the mechanics of making that happen, is this what type of like top-down directive might you give? Would you want to be more involved in social media between constituents and alder persons? What direction would you give there?
You know, that's a very difficult question to answer because it's going to depend upon the person. Some people will go, whoopee, yeah, that's what I want to do, and they'd be right on it. Other people are going to be less enthusiastic about doing it. So I think there's different things that have to be done with different people to get it to work. But the biggest thing is go out and knock on some doors. Talk to some people. When you got a major issue coming before the council, you know, your vote, if you make up your mind, you haven't done anything good for your constituents. You need to get out there and be with them.
Yeah. And do you think that's not happening under the current administration?
It's happening in some wards. In some wards, it's very good. In other words, it's very bad.
Yeah.
So there's some people that have already got the idea. They know what they got to do.
Yeah, and as far as the idea of there being a disconnect with City Hall, is that something that you're seeing as a top-down problem?
In some cases, yes. In other cases, no. There's just people that haven't been here that long, haven't been introduced to what's available in city government, City Hall, that type of thing. So some of it is, and some of it isn't.
Yeah. So that's one of the reasons that you were motivated to run.
Absolutely.
And certainly an issue that you think is very important. Are there issues that you would want to bring in the form of a resolution or an ordinance to the city council floor?
Well, as far as a mayor bringing resolutions or ordinances, that's a dangerous thing. Very dangerous thing.
Right.
If a mayor has got their own personal agenda and that's what they're going to work on in the council, everybody else gets forgotten. There are things I'd like to see done, things I may work with the council to try to get an ordinance or a resolution, but I think that's about the extent of it. I don't think a mayor should ever take an ordinance or resolution before the council, ever.
Okay. Is that something that you've seen happen
Yes.
recently?
Yes.
Are there particular specifics?
Well,
that you
I really don't want to go into details on it, but people feel there's been too much emphasis in a couple of areas while the rest of the areas have suffered. And as one lady told me, she says 95% of us are screaming bloody murder and 5% of us are getting the money. So, there's a few out there.
Is there a particular area that breaks down to?
You're going to put me on the spot, but the biggest one I've heard of is 300 blocks South Spring Street.
Okay, yeah. So streets versus some of the other things that are going in.
It seems to be just a general area in that thing. Some of the people downtown feel that they're not getting their fair share, and others are getting more than their fair share, according to these people.
Sure.
So, it's got to be the entire downtown or not at all.
Okay. And how would that change under your leadership?
Well, I think more emphasis on it. I don't think the answer to any problem is throwing money at it. I think there's times when you have to sit down and talk logic on planning and that type of thing, but throwing money at it isn't the answer. You also have to realize, especially from a mayor's position, the thing I would look at is the fact that Joe Blow down here on Park Avenue or Front Street is not getting what somebody on 300 blocks South Spring Street is getting. Why is that? Why is he not getting the attention that some other area is? So we do have two gals, I believe it is, who actually work with the downtown at this point. And I think those are the people I want to find out what kind of connection we've got with these people and why more isn't happening. Yeah. So somebody said at the forum that we had 26 new businesses downtown. Mm-hmm. I don't think I counted more than 26 buildings downtown. So I'm not sure what that was about, where it was, but there's some areas that still need a shot.
How do you see your relationship with the downtown business community?
I would hope it would be good. When I was an alderperson, my ward actually encompassed the downtown. And I worked with a lot of people. Before me, there was another gal who, when they split the wards up, I got it and somebody else had it before. But I worked a little bit with the people down there and got the feeling of what they were looking for and that type of thing. And to be honest with you, at that time there was quite a few absentee landlords that didn't care what happened. Yeah. They did not care. And, now I think I could build that relationship again with those people.
What is your position on the role of city taxpayer dollars being used in a revitalization perspective in the downtown?
I think we have to be careful with that also. The tax base and revenue we take in gets divided among so many different areas that if we start putting too much in one area and not enough in another area, we're really hurting ourselves. So I think that the fact that downtown right now is a TIF district is probably the best way to do it. There will come a time when it's not a TIF district anymore, and then we'll have to look at something different. But right now, TIF is the best way to go on that.
Mm-hmm. Streets seem to be closely tied into this argument. Generally speaking, what is your plan for streets? What is your thoughts about how streets have been handled, not just in the last 2 or 3 years, but maybe in the past decade, and maybe even going back under your leadership?
Well, we have to go back to 1993 to 2005. All right. We realized at that time, and when I say we, I'm talking about the Board of Public Works. We were the operations committee of those days. We realized that we had a problem coming down the road, and it was very difficult at that time. At that time, your most expensive street to replace was $1 million. That was South Center Street. We knew that there were more streets like that going to need to be done, and we had set up a 10-year plan for what street we were going to tackle when, how much money we'd need to do it, and that type of thing. And we divided the borrowing over a number of years for that project rather than in 1 year. So when it came time to do the engineering on the project, we had enough money in there to pay for the engineering. Now it was time to put in the street. We had enough money to do the street. If we had to change gears somewhere, we had money there and didn't have to worry about it. So it was a long-range plan we had, and I don't think it was one administration later. It was not around anymore. No one knows where it is.
Yeah. I believe they have a 5-year plan in place now.
Well, now there's something, that just came up. I saw recently that these are the streets we plan to repair. But honestly, you could start fixing roads today, wouldn't be done in 20 years.
Yeah. The cycle would be much bigger than
it's taken
borrowing.
Years for them to decay to this point. It's going to take years to replace them. And the biggest problem we've run into now is that not only the streets themselves, but the infrastructure below it, the city sanitary sewer, the water, water lines, storm sewer, all that has to be replaced and repaired. So you've taken that cost of redoing the road and doubled or tripled it by the time you're through with everything else. So now it becomes a real problem.
Yeah. So as far as fixing those streets, is this a matter of throwing money at it?
In most cases, you'll have to. Yeah, there's no other way to fix them.
Yeah.
I mean, some of them. I live on South Spring Street. That road's been broken up for 20 years, and now they have to go through and do everything. So it's kind of a crude term, throwing money at it, but it is the truth at this point. It's going to cost a lot of money and a lot of time to get these all done. And no one's going to be able to promise that they're going to get done quick.
Yeah. So you're on South Spring, so you'll be seeing construction here over the next
I'll be
couple
seeing some
of
probably
years.
pretty soon here. Yeah.
That is one of the streets that is on the city's plan here in the next couple of years. Do you think that is being done in the right order?
Well, absolutely. At least Spring Street, anyway, because
Yeah.
I've been bugging people for 20 years. When are you going to do my street? When are you going to do my street? And when I was on the council, I didn't push it ahead of everything else because there were some streets that were in worse condition. And but now that they're going to do it, I think, yeah, it's pretty good. But there again, what used to cost $1 million a mile to fix is now $2 million a mile. So.
What I think the borrowing for this year is close to $4 million for everything, equipment, infrastructure improvements, but 75% of that for 2020 is going towards streets. First of all, how do you feel about that $4 million number, and what do you think about that percentage going towards streets? Is that something you want to see increase, decrease if you were elected?
I don't want to see it increase. That's been a big problem. City borrowing is out of hand a little bit. We have not come close to what our borrowing potential is. We have approximately 39% of our borrowing potential is being borrowed. The problem that I see and run into was when I looked at from 2016 to 2020, we started out with almost $24 million in debt. Each year for 4 years, at the end of 4 years, we paid down $10 million, but our city debt is $25 million. So even though we've been paying down, we haven't gotten rid of any of that debt. And the part that bothers me is that debt service cuts away from our budget next year, from what monies we have available to spend on other things. So I'd like to see the plan for the roads set up that we weren't over borrowing every year. That we could chip away at some of that. And I'd like to get that number way down.
That 39% number, again, that's our debt capacity of what we're at right now.
Yeah.
Could get it up to 100% if you wanted to.
$51 million.
$51 million. So you want to see the 39% number lowered. What's the number? Is there a number you're comfortable with?
Yeah, nothing.
Yeah.
0. That I'd be real comfortable with. But I think realistically you'll never get to that number, but I'd like to see 25% or less.
25% or less, while still doing the streets.
Yep.
That's so. How do you rectify that? Because that
Well,
seems
again,
like
you may have to put some of them out a couple of years, the ones that aren't terrible bad at this point. You concentrate on the ones that are almost impassable, and you put the money away a little bit at a time. It's just like if you or I buy a car. Sometimes I can't afford something, I put some money away until I can, and that type of thing. So the other thing is, when we do that, when we start to borrow partials is, today we might be talking about Spring Street, but all of a sudden tomorrow something might happen on Front Street, something terrible, and we have to redo that. Well, we've got some money set aside that we can use that for that and just start over on the other street. And that way you're kind of borrowing from Peter to pay Paul. What you're doing is in small chunks.
Yeah. Right now, the city operates under a debt cap policy. It's self-imposed. It's been in place for a dozen years or so. It puts a specific number in place, 1.6 million, which for the last several years has the city's kind of blown past that. Yeah. But still, this what some are calling an outdated number as part of a resolution is on the books. What do you think should happen to that debt cap resolution? Should that be updated? Should it be scrapped? What do you think?
That's a difficult question to answer because you have to take a look every year, and you're talking about the CIP borrowing.
CIP borrowing, right,
Okay.
for capital improvement projects, infrastructure,
projects, yep.
fire engines, everything.
Sometimes you have to look at that. And the CIP I've worked with for the past 4 years is it'd really be nice to have these things, but we don't absolutely need them, that sort of thing. So what I'd like to see done is that maybe for a 5-year period, for example, everybody says, okay, we'll do with what we got unless it's an emergency of some type. Then we'll spend the money now. Otherwise, we'll put that money in our road pot. And at some point, you're going to be borrowing less, which is a good thing. Excuse me.
Our guest here is Jeff Kohman. He is one of 3 candidates vying for Beaver Dam Mayor in the February 18th primary. Those other individuals on the ticket, Alan Winter, will be here tomorrow. The incumbent, Becky Gluen, will be our guest on Wednesday's program. Worth noting, at that time, that's when we'll make all of the video and audio podcasts available. We want to make sure that those all drop at the same time, kind of a fairness issue, I guess, in terms of equal time and whatnot. Just a note to some of our listeners as well, our policy during these programs for the last several years has not been to open the phone lines. This is just a one-on-one conversation with the candidates for this particular race. Also a note to our listeners, if you are on AM 1430 WBEV, or even if you're listening on dailydodge.com, if you go to the video tab right now, you'll be able to watch the video stream here live from our Daily Dodge studios. We're going to go ahead and take a break. We'll come back and resume our conversation with Jeff Kohman here in just a few minutes.
Did you know that tooth decay is the #1 reason children miss school? Hi, I'm Dr. Anna Minima, and I'd love to help your family keep their healthy smiles. We are now accepting new patients at both our Beaver Dam and Horicon locations. Contact Preferred Dental Partners in Beaver Dam at 920-887-1292 and in Horicon at 920-485-4831 or find us online at pdpdentist.com.
Kathy knows that for Vita Park Eye Associates, it's the team that makes the difference in patient care.
The people at Vita Park were wonderful. I mean, they're very professional, taking great care to do all the tests and the measurements correctly. The procedure was just as Dr. Wilkins explained it to me. The follow-up is great. The next day, they wanted to make sure I didn't have any pain, that I didn't have any infection. They made sure it was following the directions as far as the drops that I was using. Before I had the procedure, I could not read a book unless I took off my glasses and held it about 4 inches from my face. Now I can read a book. I can drive without glasses, which is wonderful. I would definitely recommend Vita Park Eye Associates. The procedure is something that you don't need to be afraid of. The results are amazing.
Learn more at vitaparkeye.com. Partially covered by Medicare, results may vary.
When it's time to retire, it's time to think higher.
You've worked hard and now are planning to retire. Where do you begin? You worry about inflation, healthcare costs, tax and market volatility. What can you do? Call Sandy and Matt Heyer of Heyer Insurance, the retirement experts. They will eliminate all your worries and will be by your side as you enjoy your retirement. Worry-free, hassle-free. For a free, no-obligation consultation, call Heyer Insurance at 887-0580.
The quality of your relationships can determine your quality of life. When you have trouble hearing, the communication that makes relationships strong becomes difficult. It happens gradually over time. Often you don't realize it until you find yourself on the sidelines, missing out on conversations that make life special.
We are the audiologists from Beaver Dam Hearing Care. We can assess your hearing and make recommendations that both complement your lifestyle and are considered of your budget. Please call Beaver Dam Hearing Care at 887-0509 to schedule your appointment. We can keep you involved in life.
Hi, this is Stacy from Slumberland Furniture in Beaver Dam and Watertown, the girl next door with a big box store. Get comfy. Here comes your weather.
Here's a look at your weatherology forecast. Mainly sunny this afternoon with a high of 27. Southwest winds 5 to 10 miles per hour. Lows around 15 tonight. 26 tomorrow, mainly cloudy. About an inch of snow Wednesday night. I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki on your hometown station AM 1430 WBEV. Currently, it's 18.
No appointment necessary for the Quick Lane Oil Change at Countryside Ford in Columbus. 10% military discount every Monday and senior citizen discount on Wednesday. Countryside Ford, 330 Transit Road, Columbus.
This is WBEV Beaver Dam. Now back to Community Comment.
And our guest on Community Comment today is Jeff Kohman. He is one of the candidates vying for Beaver Dam Mayor on the February 18th ballot. He's challenging Ellen Winter and the incumbent Becky Gluen. Mr. Winter will be our guest on tomorrow's program, and Ms. Gluen will be our guest on Wednesday's program, at which time, after the third candidate's on, you'll be able to revisit the video and audio of all three of these conversations at dailydodge.com at that point. Again, speaking with Jeff Kohman, having served on the council for a number of years, also currently the chair of the Police and Fire Commission in the city of Beaver Dam. I mean, that kind of keeps you your finger on the pulse of the city to a certain degree.
Keeps me in the mix yet.
Keeps you in the mix yet. One of the things that has been coming before the Police and Fire Commission has been on the fire department side of things, kind of twofold: issues with staffing and issues with possibly building a new north side fire station. I'm not sure which the best way to lead into this segment is. Maybe we should start out with staffing in general in the fire department. What are your thoughts about it?
Staffing is a real problem.
Yeah.
And it's such a variety of different things, it's hard to put your finger on exactly one. But staffing costs a lot of budget money. It's very difficult to budget for an extra person or two extra people when you're working with a budget cap that the state imposes. It becomes difficult. I guess kind of segue into that a little bit also is the fact that when we do have an opening for paramedic firefighter, it's a very difficult position to fill. We get a big bowl full of candidates and we go through them. By the time we're all done, we might have 4 or 5 that would actually be eligible for the position. And when we interview those, in a lot of cases, we find out that they're not willing to come to Beaver Dam if they currently live in bigger cities. And we encountered that, we talked about it last Tuesday night in our meeting, the residency requirement. The state of Wisconsin took that residency that we used to have as within the fire district. And what they did was they put it out to a 15-mile radius, which has helped a little bit. But we're still not getting the candidates. And we had one person working for us that came to us from Oshkosh, and he wants the same amenities they have in Oshkosh and the Fox Valley here in Beaver Dam. We can't provide that for him. So what we've done is we've taken what I want to call a temporary look at extending that residency requirement to 45 miles. That takes in Madison, some of the northwestern Milwaukee suburbs, up as far as Fond du Lac, Oshkosh, this sort of thing. And we're hoping that with that we can have people that, because of the way our shifts are structured, can drive here from Oshkosh or Madison or that type of thing for their 24-hour shift. We're going to try it, see what happens, because we are in need of 2 paramedic firefighters right now. As far as the fire station, Northside Fire Station goes, I've told everyone involved, I'm kind of lukewarm on it at this point yet. I can see a future need for something with the way Beaver Dam is expanding only to the north. So there's going to be a future need of some type there. But what we're going to need, where we're going to need it, and when we're going to need it are questions that we're waiting to get answered. There's 2 studies being done out there right now. Actually, one is done. The Dodge County sent out an EMS, a group to do an EMS study to, I think the gist of it was consolidating some areas. For example, when you get into some of the very rural areas, these folks can't afford one paramedic, much less 2 or 3, that type of thing. So there's going to be a combination of services somewhere, whether it's going to be 4 quadrants in the county or whether it's going to be this city takes care of that, and this and that and the other thing. That's going to have to happen. The county got their study back, and I have seen a printed copy of it, and to be very honest with you, I wasn't very impressed. It was more a synopsis of what we're doing now as opposed to what we need to do in the future. I have not seen the Beaver Dam study yet, but I understand that's going to be in-house before the next council meeting, and Chief Mantle wanted to take it before the council at that time. So the PFC has not seen it yet. I don't know what's in it, and I feel kind of uncomfortable taking it before the council before we do see what's in it, but we'll work out those rough edges. It's going to be a huge expenditure, no doubt about it. It's going to have to go on a referendum to the people. You'll not only need, I'm guessing, about $5 million fire station, but you're going to need at very least 12 people to staff it. So it's going to be a lot of money. and we're going to have to figure out where that comes from, because that's going to be very difficult to budget for.
Yeah. Do you think taxpayers can shoulder that kind
I don't
of?
think they can. I really don't think they can. That would just be way out of hand. We'd break the cap in a hurry, the borrowing and spending cap in a hurry doing that. So I think it's more going to be a thing about we're going to have to look at municipal bonds and that type of thing to build it. And as far as staffing it goes, I have no idea. Somebody's got to pay, but where it's going to come from, I don't know.
Do you think the pace as far as how the city is moving toward looking at that fire station is brisk enough, too brisk? You think there should be, we should wait for the EMS situation to play out on the county level before investments are made?
I would agree with that in a hurry. I would like to see where the consolidations are going to be made, who's going to take care of who, that type of thing. And once that's determined, then we'd have a better feel on where exactly we need to be. It might be such a thing that we don't need to build a fire station, but maybe just a satellite EMT location where we'd have a couple of paramedics on, that type of thing, to take calls outside of the city. So again, everything is kind of up in the air at this point. And until we get a real good handle on what the study tells us or what we determine that we need, it's going to be hard to go to people and try to give them an idea.
The fire department generates revenue. People may not realize that. It's called the Interfacility Transport Program. The fire department would step in the place of a private agency to maybe transport I think they call it a non-emergent patient, basically a non-emergency situation from point A to point B, and make a few bucks while doing it. Is this a good program?
I'm sorry?
Is this a good program? Is this a program that you think should stay
I think
in
it's
place?
a very good program. I really do. Not just from the city's standpoint. A lot of municipalities like Columbus and Waupun hire a private ambulance service, and they're not getting the kind of care in most cases that they would get from our paramedic units. Neither of those areas that I'm aware of has a paramedic on staff. So even if it's a jaunt to the hospital from home or wherever, we've got staff that can do that. And in case we run into anything along the way, we've got staff that can handle it. As far as the comment that the fire department is a revenue source, don't ever call anything a city government a revenue source. It's terrible. But we get a lot of funds back in the way of the interfacility transports. There are, of course, charges for any ambulance call, paramedic call, and fire inspections and that type of thing. So they do bring a lot of money back in. I think last year, don't quote me on this, but I want to say the number was $1.5 million.
I
area.
might not be able to quote you on the number.
Yeah, but it offsets their budget,
Sure.
and that goes into the general fund and gets used wherever the city needs it at that point.
The concern that seems to come up in the PFC meetings and whatnot is, comes back to staffing. Do we have the staffing to be able to keep doing these transports that aren't necessarily required, even though they're making the city a few bucks?
At this point, yes. Yeah. At this point, we do. We've kicked around a number of ideas, too, depending upon the situation with the interfacility transport. If we need to put paramedics on an ambulance, or if we could just have 2 EMTs, that type of thing. That's kind of been kicked around, too. But that service, we're never going to take that service away or take the quality of it away.
On the police side of things, again, you've been on the PFC now for several years. The city has recently banded with the county together to form kind of a county-wide records management system. The Spillman Records Management System, somewhat of an issue. Didn't exactly get off to a smooth start.
It was a pretty contentious thing to deal with to start with. But most of the bugs are worked out of it.
Yeah. As far as the relationship between the county and the city, it did seem like it was maybe a little bit contentious there. Was there anything you would have done differently? Do you think that whole situation evolved to the betterment of both the city and the county? In retrospect, would you have done anything differently?
Well, I can say that at one point it was not good. And unfortunately, I blew my stack in a meeting, which is not the right thing to do. But when we did come forward with the problems we we were having, we did get a little better support from the county. And now that support seems to be there all the time as we need it. It was very much lacking in the first 6 to 8 months.
And now you feel things are...
I feel everything's better now.
Yeah. While we're on the topic of the police department, the police department looking at a training facility on the north side of town. If elected mayor, is this something you'd like to see fast-tracked, expanded? I know it seems to be moving toward it happening, and there doesn't seem to be too much in the way of it, but are you comfortable with the direction that it's going?
I think at this point, being the PFC president, yes, it's come really well. Walmart gave us the land. They gave us more land than we wanted, which was a great thing. The Public Works people have been using that as a tipping site or a dumping site for materials that they normally had to pay to take somewhere else. So we've got that done with them. They've created us a nice berm there for the shooting range, that type of thing. And we have got money set aside now at this point from a future or past borrowing to erect just a pole building type thing for training and storage and everything else we run into. So, yeah, it's on track.
When we're on this topic of police and fire personnel and kind of coming off our conversation of staffing, one of the things that we're hearing is it's very difficult to attract and retain members of not just the Police and Fire Commission, city workers, workers for manufacturing.
It's everybody.
Your thoughts about trying to attract families to Beaver Dam, et cetera?
Well, I think there's a lot of different things involved there. The biggest thing is to try to determine, when we talk to these newer recruits and that type of thing, what did you anticipate was going to be in Beaver Dam? And was there something that you're looking for that isn't here? That type of thing. And try to work around it. We can't be all things to all people. But under the same token, we want to make it comfortable so when somebody moves into our area from a bigger city location, that type of thing, that we have the amenities they're looking for in most cases. And frankly, there's some people that say, I don't want to be in a city anymore, I want to be in a smaller community, so they come in too. But I think I've been doing some research on what kind of programs we could have for young adults. And what I've found is the Watermark has some programs set up for younger people. We also have, with the addition of the Beaver Dam Community Theater, now I guess they're doing some concerts and things of that nature in there. So I think there's some things that are going to draw people in a little better. If they fish, we got the greatest lake in the world. If they hunt, Horicon Marsh is close. So we've got some good things going for us too. It's not all negatives.
Our guest is Jeff Kohman. He is candidate for Beaver Dam Mayor, appearing on the February 18th ballot alongside two individuals, Alan Winter, who will be joining us on tomorrow's program, and Becky Gluen, who will be our guest on Wednesday's program. After Wednesday's program, we'll make all of these, the audio and the video from these conversations available on our website, dailydodge.com, which if you're listening to us on AM 1430 right now and you want to watch the program, head over to the video tab and click on it, and you'll be able to see what it is that we're doing here from the Daily Dodge studio. Our conversation with Jeff Kohman. Jeff Kohman will continue here in just a few minutes.
Get the latest news, sports, and more by following Daily Dodge on Twitter at DailyDodgeBD.
Prairie Ridge Health, well into the future. We all hope we don't need a hip replacement, but if you do, think Prairie Ridge Health. The average stay for a hip replacement at Prairie Ridge Health is 1.8 days. To learn more, visit prairieridgehealth.org. One more reason to choose Prairie Ridge Health, inspired by you.
The Verlo Mismatch Sale is going on now. Stop into the Verlo Mattress Factory store today. The best savings of the year happen now when you buy mattress sets made with mismatch fabrics. Twin mattresses starting at $89. Queen firm sets at $399. Queen pillow top sets at $899. Savings also on adjustable foundations. Who cares if the fabrics don't match? Wake up, sleep better, and save big at Verlo. Visit the Fort Atkinson store at 201 North Main Street today.
And 1613 North Spring Street, Beaver Dam.
With the addition of the Prairie Ridge Health Clinics in Columbus, Beaver Dam, and Marshall, Prairie Ridge Health knew they could be a destination for patients who need hip and knee replacement. Thank you for your wonderful support. Prairie Ridge Health, inspired by you.
It is 14 minutes past 1 o'clock. Don't forget, coming up, we've got Radio Bingo here on AM 1430 WBEV. That'll be at 1:35 following our community comment show. Radio Bingo, and you should be playing on the yellow card this week. Now back to Craig Warnbold and community comment.
And our guest is Jeff Kohman. He is the candidate for mayor in the city of Beaver Dam, appearing on the February 18th ballot alongside Al Winter and Becky Gluen. The conversation with Mr. Winter will be tomorrow at this time, 12:35 to about 1:30, and then on Wednesday, same time frame for incumbent Mayor Becky Gluen. The program worth noting, general policy during these election programs are to sit down one-on-one with the candidates. So we're not taking any phone calls today, tomorrow, or Wednesday. But obviously that will resume again when we get back into our normal community comment cycle. The city of Beaver Dam has been negotiating with the Beaver Dam Lake Improvement Association in recent months and over the past year or two regarding Skunk Island and this island that's out in the middle of the lake. The debate about whether or not it should be public, it should be open to hunting, has been kind of an ongoing issue. What's your take on the whole Skunk Island thing?
Well, first off, I believe the Improvement Association or whatever owns it at this point said the city could have it. Mm-hmm. And the first thought that comes to mind is, why would you turn down an island in Beaver Dam Lake? Well, there's a lot of reasons you'd turn down an island in Beaver Dam Lake, and the two that come to mind predominantly are police and fire. The question arose in one of our PFC meetings is, what are they going to use it for? It's become a park that everybody can use, or are kids going to be out there burning things and, this sort of thing. And we really haven't gotten a direct answer on what Skunk Island would be worked with. The problems we run into, though, is if the police are called for a wild party on Skunk Island, we don't have a boat to get there. The fire department has a boat, but they've already said, you're not going to use it for this. So, what do we do? Do we at that point call the county in, who has a recreational officer and a boat, or whose responsibility is it, DNR or whatever? We have not been able to answer that question yet. So that free island is not going to be so free. I think there's some potential there, but how to police it is what really bothers me. And what kind of costs are involved with that all the time, and you never know exactly what's going to happen there until it's in full swing that people can get out there. And too many unanswered questions at this point for me. Again, if I made the comment, if they want to give it to the city, I'll give them $10 for it. And nobody stood up, so I think they still want to give it to the city.
You meant you personally?
I would
you
personally give them $10 for it. Yeah.
Well, you might not get any police and fire responses out there.
Well, I'll have to. You have to put up with it.
Do you think the city needs a new rescue boat, one way or the other, for police or fire, or for this possible contingency?
We have a new rescue boat.
Yeah.
We just bought this last year, $70,000 with the rescue boat. All the lights, all the whistles, all the horns. Mm-hmm. So we do have adequate. We've got adequate equipment when we have a lake emergency.
Sure.
It's not like we're without, but like I say, the fire department doesn't want to lend to the police department in a situation like that. And we've already told, I think the mayor was in one of the meetings, we already made known that, no, we're not going to buy a boat. So once it's over and done with, I don't know what the answer is going to be there.
You mentioned Skunk Island possibly becoming a city park. Would be one of about 24 parks in the city of Beaver Dam. There's been a renewed push as of late to look at the oldest park in the city of Beaver Dam, Swan Park. Price tag hasn't been revealed yet, but there's a master plan that is in place. Curious your thoughts about the potential for updating this park and what your thoughts are.
There are probably some facilities in there that need to be updated. The wading pool has been in there forever, a couple of concession buildings, that type of thing. What bothers me about the plans that have been laid in place for Swan Park is, how do you do it without damaging what's already there. Just the ambiance of the whole area, you want to keep the trees, the hiking trails or walking trails, that sort of thing. I don't remember, I think it's Vida Street, the side that has the wall, which was original to the Swan Park when it was built. Things like that they want to tear out and do away with. I don't want to have them do that. I would rather not see that. I would rather see, the lights in the lagoon working and that being fully functional. I don't think we should take any bleachers away from the bandstand and make people sit on hills. That doesn't cut it anymore. So I think there's some things in that plan that need to be looked at and said, nope, ain't going to happen. The plan holds a concept for a splash pad in place of a wading pool, from what I understand. That's going to take away from the integrity of the park because there's a lot of trees and things that are going to have to be taken down around that. So if they want to put a splash pad in, great, but I don't want it in Swan Park.
What do you think about a pool in the city of Beaver Dam in general?
Craig, that's an issue that's been bent around a pole probably for 25 years. And it's never come to fruition, mainly because of the cost of the darn thing. At one point, we even had a private sector involved in it, and trying to get together on some kind of partnership, put it together. But location was one of the issues, cost was another one of the issues, and did the people really want it was the biggest issue. And what we found was not as many people wanted it as we thought they did. And so it just kind of got put on hold again. Unfortunately, now our beach, we don't have any lifeguards anymore out there or anything, so it's not as enticing as it used to be. But people come in from out of town, they say, wow, you guys got a beach, this is fantastic. So maybe we're a little too close to the forest to see the trees. I think we may need to do something out there and forget about the pool.
Yeah, it's often mentioned that a pool would attract single families, young families to the Beaver Dam community. I guess my first question is: do you think we need to attract new families, new people to Beaver Dam? Is that needed?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Beaver Dam right now has got a plethora of jobs that are going unfilled, and as long as the economy is good, there's going to be jobs out there filled. We probably are in a situation now where we've never had this many job openings within the community, and we need to bring people in to fill those. Young people, yeah, that's great. They can commit to a number of years to the city of Beaver Dam, that type of thing. So I think that's a big issue, and I think it's well-founded.
Yeah. Finding somewhere for them to live is the next trick, it
Bingo,
seems like.
That's a problem.
Yeah.
You might look at it at first sight and say, my word, look at all the apartments we've got to rent here, that type of thing. But a lot of people that move into a community want a single-family residence they want to move into. They don't want to be in an apartment, that type of thing. We are not overwhelmed with starter homes in the city of Beaver Dam. So that's something I think should be looked into. I know it was mentioned, I think, in the forum by one of the other candidates that another Judson Drive type thing with the self-help housing. I think that'd be a great thing to happen in Beaver Dam because they were just starter type houses for the most part. People added on to them, did great things with them after that, but that was the ones they came in for. And that's one we're going to have to tackle.
If you were mayor, do you foresee incentives or other things that you could do to attract construction of single-family homes in the city?
I think we're going to have to have some incentives of some type. If there's a developer that buys a chunk of land and he wants to put some homes in, we're going to have to help him out. That's all there is to it, because we are in an area right now where building is stagnated. You can go anywhere to bigger cities, and where you go to, they're building up houses. We're not getting them. So we need to determine why we're not getting them, and secondly, determine who can we partner with to bring some in. Because there is a little bit of land left for that. Not a lot, but a little bit. And there could probably be easily 25 to 50 new homes built in Beaver Dam. And that's what we're going to need to get out of this tax crunch we're in right now. We need assessed value. We need homes.
All right. Finally today, why should voters on February 18th support Jeff Kohman for mayor of Beaver Dam?
He's a really nice guy. I don't know if that counts. No, I look at myself and the other two candidates. I have the most experience out of the other two candidates, out of all of us. I've worked in every department in the city. I've worked with 99% of the people in the city, and I love the city. So it would be a situation with myself where if you are unhappy with the things that have been going on for the past 2.5 years, I'm the logical choice. I can go in and I can sit down and have a handle on everything that's going to need to be going yet, probably within 60 to 90 days. Bringing anybody in who doesn't have that experience is going to take you a year easily. So that's probably the biggest thing. And again, you have to ask yourself, have I been unhappy with what's been going on the past 2.5 years? When Mayor Gloon was elected, for the first year, I was her biggest cheerleader she had because she was starting to get things done. But then she went and did too much, tried to get everything done at one time. And that's the stuff that the people in the community are not happy with. I don't work like that. I don't, I made a comment at the forum that we're going to slow down a little bit. And that's not exactly what I meant. What I meant was we're going to take a deep breath. We're going to look at what's working and what isn't working. We're going to change our policies and procedures accordingly, and we're going to get on with things. And are we going to make everybody happy? No, it won't happen. Are we going to cut your taxes? No, that won't happen. But what we need to do is make it stable and grow at the same time.
Well, I'd like to thank you very much for joining me on the program today.
Thank you. Again, it was a pleasure to be here.
Once again, Jeff Kohman, candidate for Beaver Dam Mayor, his name on the February 18th ballot alongside Alan Winter, who will be our guest on tomorrow's program, and Becky Gluen, the incumbent, who will be our guest on Wednesday's program. We do want to thank you very much for listening to the program today. Another reminder, if you're just joining us, we are going to hold off on posting the audio or video from any of these conversations until all the candidates have had an opportunity to appear for one of these conversations, one-on-one conversations on WBEV's Community Comment. And as always, the next two programs with the other candidates will also be from 12:35 to roughly about 1:30 or so. And also the same policy would apply to those as well. We will refrain from taking calls from our listeners, though we do appreciate efforts that you would make to extend your questions or your comments. We just set that as a policy a few years ago. So we do want to thank our guests for joining us on today's program, Jeff Kohman. Jeff, thanks a lot once again.
Well, thank you once again.
And we're going to say that is going to do it for today's Community Comment.